I am 89 years old, and every evening, just before the light goes, I sit in this chair and I feel it, not pain, not sadness exactly. Something quieter, something that has no name but sits right here, just below the chest, like a stone that never quite warmed up. I made a decision at 71 that everyone around me called the right one. My son cried with relief. My neighbors threw a small dinner. My pastor shook my hand and said, "Harold, God doesn't want you to be alone." And for a while, I believed every single one of them. But the morning I finally understood what I had done. I was standing in my kitchen at 5:15 in the morning. The coffee was getting cold. The house was empty. And something I hadn't felt in 4 years was sitting in the room with me again. Something I hadn't even realized I had been missing. It took me a moment to recognize it. It was myself. I want to tell you what happened. Not the version I told Daniel. Not the version I told the pastor. The real one. Because if you are 60, or 65, or 70, and the people around you are starting to talk, you need to hear this before they convince you of something you cannot undo. Eleanor died on a Thursday morning in March of 2009, 53 years. She was making oatmeal. I was in the workshop. By the time I got to the hospital, she was already somewhere I couldn't reach. The doctors were kind. The words they used were clean and careful. I nodded and signed things and drove home alone and sat in her chair. Not my chair, her chair. And I did not move until it was dark. The next 18 months I will not describe in detail. You either know that kind of grief or you don't. What I will tell you is this. I came out the other side. Slowly. The way you come out of a long winter. You don't notice spring arriving. You just realize one morning that the cold has eased. For me, that morning came in the workshop. I am a retired Finnish carpenter. 43 years. I built staircases, cabinetry, doors that fit so perfectly they sealed with a whisper. When Eleanor died, I went back to the only thing I knew how to do. I built things, a birdhouse, a step stool, a rocking chair for my daughter in Phoenix, then bigger things, a walnut dining table that took me 11 weeks. I was not healing, I was working, but it turned out they were the same thing by the time I was 70. I had a life I had made with my own hands, and I was quietly and completely at peace. That is the man I'm still trying to find. It started at Christmas dinner in 2014. Daniel, my son, 44 years old, never been good at hiding what he's thinking, looked at me across the table and put his fork down. "Dad, you seem lonely." I told him I wasn't. He looked at the empty chair beside me. The chair that used to be Eleanor's. I keep it at the table. I always have. He didn't say anything about it, but I saw him look. That look said everything. 3 weeks later, he called on a Sunday evening. He had met a woman through a colleague. Her name was Margaret, 70 years old, retired. School teacher, widowed 4 years prior. Just one coffee. "Dad, 1 hour. You can leave whenever you want." My neighbor Frank was next. Frank is the kind of man who knocks on your door without calling first and considers that a virtue. He cornered me at the mailbox on a Tuesday morning in January. "You're wasting your good years, Harold. A man your age shouldn't be alone in that house." I told him I liked my house. He looked at me with genuine pity, like I was a dog sitting by a door that wasn't going to open. And here's the thing I need you to understand. I was happy, not the loud kind. Not the kind that fills a room. The quiet kind. The kind that lives in a 5 o'clock morning and a cold porch and a piece of walnut wood that does exactly what you ask of it. I was happy, and I did not trust it, because everyone I loved told me I wasn't. I met Margaret on a Tuesday in February. A small diner, red vinyl boots. She was already there when I arrived, sitting very straight, hands folded on the table. The way a person sits when they are nervous and don't want to show it. I liked that about her immediately. She asked about the workshop within the first 10 minutes. She asked real questions, not polite ones. She wanted to know what Finnish carpenter meant, what the difference was between walnut and oak. Why I chose hand tools over power tools for certain cuts. I drove home thinking, maybe Daniel is right. Maybe I've been so busy protecting my quiet that I couldn't see what was missing inside it. The first months were warm. She laughed at things I said. She remembered details. She called on Sunday mornings, and the calls were easy. I felt something I had not felt since Eleanor. The feeling of being known. But I want to stop here. Right here. Because this is the part no one talks about. Being seen and being truly known are not the same thing. And I was about to learn the difference, the hardest way an old man can learn anything. Slowly. Across 4 years, one quiet morning at a time. If this is sitting with you, if something in what I'm saying is touching something you haven't said out loud, leave it in the comments. I read them. Everyone. And if you want to hear the rest of this, subscribe. Because what happened next changed how I understand everything about what it means to be yourself. The changes did not arrive like weather. They arrived the way termites arrive, invisible, structural, and by the time you notice, the damage is already done. Margaret liked mornings full of sound. By 8 o'clock, she had told me about her youngest grandchild's reading troubles, a segment she heard on the radio, and a disagreement her neighbor was having with the HOO. I am not a man who speaks before 9. Eleanor knew that. Within our first year, she called it my monastic hour. She made coffee, left mine on the counter, and disappeared until I was ready for the world. Margaret did not have a monastic hour. She had questions. Where are you going? How long will that take? What are you building? They were not cruel questions. They were the questions of a woman who wanted to be close. But every question pulled me up out of the wood, out of the grain, out of the particular silence that is the only place I have ever done my best thinking. So I started going to the workshop earlier, 5:30 instead of 6, then 5. Then I started waking at 4:45 just to have an hour that was entirely mine. And she started coming earlier, not to crowd me, just to be near, and slowly. The way you stop using a muscle without deciding to. I stopped starting projects that required deep concentration, because deep concentration requires believing you will not be interrupted, and I had stopped believing that. There was a morning in November, 4 years and 3 months in. I woke at 5. The house was dark. Margaret was asleep down the hall. I made my coffee and I walked to the workshop door and I put my hand on the frame and I stopped. I didn't go in. I stood there. And I asked myself, when did I last lose track of time in there? I searched. I couldn't find it. I asked, when did I last finish something I was proud of? I searched again. 14 months. 14 months since I had built anything that required my full self. I had been making small things, safe things, repairs, replacements. Nothing that demanded the part of me that goes quiet and deep and completely away from the world. I'd built a life that needed solitude the way a body needs oxygen, and I had been holding my breath for 4 years. I went back inside, and I sat in this chair, this exact chair, and I watched the sun come up over the workshop roof, and I thought about what Eleanor would say. She was not a sentimental woman, she was a practical one. She would have looked at me over a coffee cup and said, "Harold, you already know what's wrong. You're just hoping it will fix itself." She was always right. I sat in the chair until noon. I did not go into the workshop. I did not go inside to Margaret. I just sat with what I now knew. I ended it on a Sunday evening in late spring. We were sitting on the back porch. The light was low and gold, and the kind of beautiful that makes hard things harder. "Margaret," I said, "I need to tell you something." She put her glass down. She looked at me with those careful eyes, and I told her the truth, not a version of it. The full thing. I told her that she had done nothing wrong, that she had been kind and warm and genuinely good, that the problem was not her and had never been her. The problem was that I had a life, a specific, particular, hard-built life, that required things I had not been honest about with her or with myself. She sat very still while I spoke. When I finished, she said, I knew something was wrong. I just kept thinking if I was patient enough, you would let me in. I told her I was sorry. I meant it. She left that evening. Daniel called the next morning. He was not angry. He was something worse than angry. He was disappointed. He said, "Dad, you're going to be 76 years old and completely alone." I told him I knew. Frank didn't speak to me for 6 weeks. I understood that too. But that first morning, the morning after she left, I woke at 5. No one in the hall. No sound from the other room. I walked straight to the workshop in my socks. I put both hands on the workbench. The wood was cold, and I stood there, in the silence, in the dark, in the smell of sawdust and oil, and I was home. I built a cabinet that week, cherry wood, dovetail joints. The kind of work that requires your full attention or it shows. It took me 9 days. When I finished, I sat on the floor of the workshop and I looked at it for a long time, not because it was the best thing I had ever made, but because I had made it whole with my whole mind in my own time, in my own silence. That was 13 years ago. I am 89 now. I live alone. I still wake at 5. I still take my coffee to the porch. I still go into the workshop until noon. My hands are slower. The joints take longer, but they still whisper when they close. I want to tell you something I could not have told you at 71. The fear of dying alone is real. I know it. I have felt it at 3 in the morning when the house makes sounds and no one is there to hear them with you. I do not pretend the quiet is always easy. But here is what I know now that I did not know then. Dying alone is not the worst thing. The worst thing is spending your final years as a man you no longer recognize, performing a version of yourself that makes other people comfortable while the real you waits alone in a cold workshop that you never quite get back to. Your mornings belong to you. Your silence belongs to you. Your particular way of being in the world, however small, however quiet, belongs to you. Do not let anyone call that loneliness. That is a life. It is yours. And at 89, sitting in this chair, watching the light go, I promise you, it is enough.